Hello. Welcome to episode 13 of the Intern's Oddities from around the world. Today, we will be continuing our Journey to the West series and talking about the origins of the Tang Monk, otherwise known as Tripitaka or Shuangzhen. I apologize if I butcher any of these names. I'm still not sure if it's pronounced Shuangzhen or Shuangshin. So if I switch back and forth between those or I butcher it, I apologize ahead of time. So, anyways, there was once, it starts with the classic story of the baby floating down the river and someone finds it. But this one is it has a little bit of a plot twist. So the baby is floating down the river, they find it, but it's also bloody. Apparently, the baby's toe had been cut off. Kind of brutal. Yeah, we're starting out real brutal here. So, anyways, they continued their story talking about this, and they raised the baby, the child, the only way they know how. The people who found it turned out to be monks. So they raised the baby in as a monk on the path to enlightenment. And then one day, this monk grew up and they were having a debate with another monk because from the story that seems to be a thing that monks commonly do is debate with each other. But the key is debating with each other in a peaceful manner versus getting upset and irritated about it. So anyways, he was debating with another monk, and the other monk, he kind of got upset and he said some hurtful things to Shuangxin. So what he told him is he's like, you don't even know who your parents are, and you've never even bothered to look into who they are. Like, what kind of a person are you? And this really hurt, Shuangzhen's feelings. He didn't really know how to respond to this. And when he told his master this, his master said that, yes, that was true, and he never wanted to burden the child growing up with those memories, so he felt that he would wait until the child was ready to ask him about it directly. And so he asked him, would you like to know what happened to your parents? And so Shuangzhen said yes, he would like to know. And thus begins our story. So, apparently, his father, let's just call him Chin for now. His father was trying to become a governor, and he had just finished what would equate as like basically a modern day version of college, and he had just finished all his studies and all that, and he was trying to be a governor. And one day he was back in town. He had just come back to town after his studies were over, and he was walking down through the streets when something hit him in the face, like not violently. Like, I wanted to express that, not violently, just like enough to get his attention. Just like a small pebble, not enough to actually hurt him. That I wanted to make that part clear. They weren't trying to hurt him. That someone just wanted to get his attention. So as he turned his head to see what was, who was trying to get his attention, well, essentially he got kidnapped. Basically, they, before he could see what was going on, they had taken him down off his horse and they drug him away. And when they finally took the bag off of his head, he saw a beautiful princess, and she was asking him some questions, and she was like, do you know who I am? And he's like, no, I'm very confused right now. Like, what is going on? Like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I think I've been kidnapped. And she laughs at him and she's like, I'm the princess and I just wanted to get your attention. I wanted to ask you something. And long story short, she basically is like, hey, did you want to get married? And he's like, uh, okay, sure. And then they get married. That's kind of how it is, because apparently marriages were happening very quickly during that time. So that was apparently a thing. So they get married, they consummate their wedding vows, all that, and they end up having a kid. So one day they're trying to take their small child across the river, and the husband gets he gets injured, and it there's like 3 or 4 different interpretations of the story. So as usual with Journey to the West, so if I mess anything up uh or say anything that seems out of order, please let me know, and let me know which version of the story you read, because I would love to read all the different versions. I'm obsessed with it. But anyways, because some versions, the baby is already born and with them on this boat ride, but in other versions of the story, the baby hasn't been born yet and is born at a later point in time. So we'll get to that momentarily. But for now, regardless of the baby at this point in time, they're on a boat ride. They're getting on a boat ride. And in some versions of the story, she is actively pregnant during this boat ride. Like, she's currently like 6 months pregnant, I believe they said in some versions. And so they get on the boat, and the ferryman is like, he's trying to stall for time, I guess. The wife, Guan Yin, let's just not Guan Yin, sorry, Guan Ye, or something like that. Hold on. I can't remember the name. I had some trouble with the names, so I apologize for that. But the wife, the mother, she was 6 months pregnant during this time, and in some versions of the story. And the ferryman was trying to stall for time. She didn't trust the ferryman, the person who would, take them in the boat across the river, because they were trying to go, and he was like, "Oh, just give me a moment. My partner is already down at the dock getting the boat ready." But here's the problem. He tried to tell them, "Why don't you wait until tomorrow to go? So it'll be, because the weather's kind of bad tonight. Why don't you wait until tomorrow?" And the husband was like, "No, stop trying to stall me. Let me go. Stop trying to stall for time." So they went on the boat ride, and long story short, it didn't end well for the husband. The wife was right to not trust the ferryman. He had a partner. Some stuff went down. The husband didn't make it. When it was all over, the husband did not make it. And turns out the dude who was in cahoots with the ferryman actually took the place of her husband and tried to become and wanted to become governor. So we're going to flash forward a little bit now, and this dude has become governor now, and they've gotten married, and they had a big banquet to celebrate. And while they're having this big banquet to celebrate him becoming the governor, she is sitting there just savagely thinking about all the ways she could brutalize this man who got rid of her husband. And so she's just thinking of all the different ways that she could, bring him harm. And they're eating like some meat, and she's just thinking of how much she would enjoy it if she was eating his carcass. Like, really dark, twisted thoughts. But anyways, glazing over that. So they finish the night, and fast forward a few more weeks, it's tensions are kind of high, and she's still pregnant. So she is trying her best to hide the baby, but it's getting more and more difficult. So she eventually has the baby in secret, and she's trying her best. She's trying to raise the baby in secret. And one night, while she's trying to raise the newborn baby, the husband walks in and finds the baby, and he gets into a rage. He gets very, very upset about this. And he's like, "No, this is not okay. This is unacceptable. You have to get rid of that thing. I will get rid of that thing, And she's like, "No, no, you can't. It's mine. You can't. At the very least, just let me do it. Let me get let me take care of this." And he's drunk and in a rage, and he's just like, and he's exhausted. So he's like, "Okay, I'll let you take care of this. But you have to make sure you bring me evidence that you've taken care of it. I don't know, a finger or a bone or something. Bring me back evidence that you've done something about this." So she is calmed for a few moments, but quickly, after a short rest, she wakes up and she takes the baby down to the river. And she has to put the baby in the river. And that's what she told him she would do. She told him that she would, you know, put the baby in the river. And I'm trying not to get too graphic about it because I don't know how the censors on YouTube are going to feel about that term, but I think you get what I'm getting at. I think you know what I'm trying to tiptoe around. So, anyways, it's similar to Yad Yayona or The Lady in White, kind of similar to that, if you know those stories. But, anyways, so she takes the baby down to the river and she starts crying and she apologizes to the baby and she's like, "I'm so sorry. I know. I I'm sorry for what I'm about to do to you." And she ends up cutting off the toe, the small pinky toe, and it's not looking too good. So, because he said that he needed evidence, right? And she also thought that maybe, one day, years later, maybe it would be possible that you could um recognize your child from the missing toe. So this all happens, and she sends the baby down the river with a note apologizing for what she had done and saying that she would be waiting for him when he got older unless fate decided to send her to be with his father sooner before they were able to reunite. So that is where Xuanzin, Tripitaka, the Tang Monk, originated from, was from this little baby drifting down the river. And then they grew up as a monk, and all that stuff happened. Okay. So now back to present day. So after learning the fate of his family and his mother still being out there, when he learned that his mother is still out there, forced to live with this terrible, terrible man, he decided that, monk or no monk, pacifist or not, he had to do something about this. He had to go on a journey to find his mother and see, and take care of her and help her out however he could. So, long story short, he went on his journey. He eventually, he left with the approval of his master. His master understood, and he was like, "Yes, I understand. You got to take care of your family. You do what you need to do, and you're always welcome back here." You know. So he went out. He went on his journey, and over time, he eventually made it to his mother, and he sat down with her to a nice dinner because while he was there, he'd come back and gone a couple of times at this point because he wanted to take his time. He didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want to get you know the same thing happen to him that happened to his father. So he went there a couple of times, and one day he went there and the husband happened to come back home while the Tong monk was there. hmm So as you can imagine, tensions were a bit high. And the mother slash wife was kind of freaking out. She was like, "Oh no, no, no! He's nobody. He's my dentist or whatever." She made up some excuse, and he was like, and so the husband was starting to get a little angry, thinking his wife was cheating on him or something. And then the Tang Monk is like, "Oh no, I am simply a monk from the nearby monastery, and we're here asking for clothing donations to help clothe the homeless during the colder months." Basically, like a something like that. And so they, whatever their excuse was, they came up with their excuse, and they were like, "Hey, he's just a simple little monk. It's fine. He's nobody, nobody important." So they invited him to sit down for dinner. So Xuanzan, Tripitaka, Tong Monk chose to sit down to dinner with them, So they're sitting there, they're eating dinner, and the husband, who is now the governor, if you remember that, he was talking and, talking about all the great accomplishments that he has done and all of his achievements. And the monk is just over here talking about how great men need not speak of their achievements, for they are happy with their achievements alone, and they do not seek gratification. And he just kept saying all these sayings that made the governor look like a bad person without directly calling him a bad person. And it was great. Like, if you actually read the story, like, it's absolutely great. It's chapter 9 of 100, by the way. So, yeah, but it's great. If you actually get a chance to read it, he's just like doing a battle of wits with him the whole time, and it's amazing. So, they finish their dinner, blah, blah, blah. And he discovers about what happened to his father. He already knew, but he gets confirmation. And so he ends up getting some evidence against the governor, and he ends up going and he tells a foreign leader what is happening, because plot twist, it turns out this foreign leader dude is the father of the mother. Yes, I know it's getting a little hard to follow along without me giving specific explicit names, but I feel it's better to me not to give the names than to butcher them as terribly as I would trying to give them. So I apologize for that. But anyways, the grandfather essentially. And he goes over and he tells this foreign leader, everything that's been happening to his daughter, and how it's, not the governor that they think it is, and all this stuff and everything that he's done. And so this dude, obviously the grandfather, is not very happy with all this been going down. So he raises a whole army. He's gonna go tell him what's what, So he raises up this whole army. He gets his army out, and he goes to the governor, and he's like, "Hey, I know what you did. I know what you did last summer." Yeah, and he's going all like movie quote on him and all this, and so they take care of him. They end up locking him up in prison, and they all live happily ever after. Yay! But if they all live happily ever after from this point, then how exactly did the Tang Monk get tasked with delivering the holy manuscripts over to India, where Buddha was? How did he get that mission? Well, we're getting a little low on time here, and I've been rambling a lot as usual, but for good reason. I feel it's important details. But since we're getting a little bit low on time, I'm going to pick up the pace here a little bit and and kind of try to condense the rest of this as much as I can while still getting the important details across. So we're almost at the end now. They've come to a happy conclusion. Everyone lives happily ever after, all this. And then they have some monks that come to the king of the towns, like the grand emperor, and they tell him that they need help delivering some manuscripts to Buddha, and they need their best and brightest monk. They need a monk who is missing a toe and completely embodies the entire essence of what it means to be Buddhist and Buddha. And they are searching for a monk who meets all of these qualities down to the letter and refuses to break them for any reason. A complete pacifist and vegan. And the king says that while I may not know all of the monks in this town, and a lot of them are highly valued and prized for their anonymity, well, there is one monk I know of that meets these standards, and that monk is Tripitaka, or the Tang Monk. And of course, there's a bit more to it than that, but I have, trying not to make the video too awfully long, so we're gonna just leave it at that. And that is where he gets the mission to deliver the scrolls and the scriptures to Buddha over in India, because he always took his training and his Buddhist practices so seriously, and now he has been chosen by both his master and the emperor to carry on this very, very important mission. And this mission is what we will be discussing next week as we condense chapters 15 through 100. Yeah, 15 through 100. As of right now, what we just finished, this was only chapter 9 that we've gone through so far. So we've got quite a bit more. But we only have one more episode left in this Journey to the West series. So we will be condensing the rest of it into the next episode. So thank you for coming to hang out, and I look forward to seeing you in the comments section. And also, don't forget, if you have any stories of your own you want to tell, don't worry. As we have said before, we will keep your complete anonymity. We will not discuss anything you don't want us to, and we will do our best to keep your personal details hidden, meaning we will definitely keep your personal details hidden. No worries. And if you have anything you wanted to share with us, you can email us over at thisuncannieearth@gmail.com or join our Facebook group. We are working on trying to get some more social media up, and we have, I believe it is the first 160 episodes on Spotify, and the rest will be on YouTube. But there is one thing I would like to point out, if you have not already figured it out for yourself. Our videos, since they are recorded as live streams, they will be under the live category tab rather than the videos category tab. Just wanted to clear that out. So thank you for hanging out. We hope to see you next time. And remember, stay uncanny.